Unspoken Issues.
All right. Well, we are here. We are gathered here today. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Unspoken Issues podcast. There are some books, some titles, some comics that I always knew that if I was ever going to cover them, like, I wanted to handle it with, like, deft hands, and I was always afraid of, like, not giving a title it's a good enough coverage because of the reputation that the comic book has. And this is one of those that was on my list that I was always like, I've got to read this. I've got to talk about it sometime. And I hope that when I do the podcast or talk about it, people understand that there's no way really to give this thing. We're going to give it our best. That's for damn sure. But I just feel like this thing is one of those comics that is held on a pedestal. And this is the first time I had a chance to read Kurt Busiek's Astro City. We're only doing the first volume and the half issue, so issues 1 through 6 and the half issue. And joining me tonight, Dean Compton. Dean Compton, are you ready to talk some Astro City?
Yeah, this is an incredible book, really hit hard. It's one of the books that, like, you show people when they just talk about the 90s and they paint it with the wide brush. Everything's just pouches and Rob Liefeld, etc. Cash grab, it's nonsense, gimmicks. And one of the things you show them historically has been Astro City with its incredible stories that are about the other side of heroism. The getting more to the root. A lot of times when I remember I would be reading Wizard or Hero Illustrated, they'd be like, oh, you should check out X-Force. We're trying to show you what they're doing when they're not heroes. And it never really happened. And that's fine because, to be honest, how much do I care about Cannonball and Warpath when they're not superhero? And I need these guys to be punching shit. Astro City is like these characters that are pastiches of well-known characters, and you can enjoy them and you can enjoy this other side of them and take them. You can appreciate them in a way that you never really thought about superheroes in that way before. So it's a very important book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I blazed through like all of the Metro books last year to the point where I probably need to read them again because like that all runs together now in my head. But this first volume I've read several times. And it's a record scratch moment, right? You don't have a lot of record scratch moments in things, but Watchmen's a record scratch moment. Like Astro City here's a new way to do a thing that people have been doing for a while. And it was brought to you by the 1990s, that decade that you love to hate.
Yeah, smack dab in the middle of it. 95, right?
It could never have worked any other time.
It's crazy.
It's worked since then, don't get me wrong, but it couldn't have debuted. If it hadn't debuted then, it never would have debuted.
Darry, 1995, Astro City, it's obviously an important book. Did it feel important when you first read Astro City?
Yes. I didn't pick it up when it started because I didn't have the money, but I got the 1/2 issue from Wizard and I really liked it. So I was always looking out for the opportunity to get the rest of the series. And as soon as that presented itself, I got the entire thing. And like Dean, I never looked back. You can't put it down once you start, and it's incredibly dense and it keeps going. I think it's still coming out. So there's always more to it. And every time I read...
Isn't it like a British show? Like they stop and then start again?
Yeah, I think it's when Busiek gets around to like, oh, hey, I've got an idea for an arc I really want to do. It's not like anyone's sitting with a gun to his head and being like, hey, it's been more than 30 days. Where's the next one? It's like, no, do I have a story I need to tell? We're talking about 30 years now. So that's cool. I think one of the arcs, if I remember correctly, was an idea he had for a potential Marvel's sequel that never materialized at the House of Ideas, and eventually he was like, "What? I'm going to put it in my own book," and it was very good. But I think it's been for the longest time. But you're going back to these first 6 issues that we read, and they're perfect. Exactly what Dean said. It's like
which one is the Marvel's one? Is it the brothers story?
Yeah, I think it was the brothers. I don't remember what the Marvel context was.
Yeah,
I remember.
Well, it'd be like Shield and Hydra, right?
Sure. Yeah, of course. That makes sense. Yeah.
That's why, because I'd never heard, I don't know a lot of like behind the scenes lore. I read through the letters pages here. And that's pretty much it. The Metro books that I have don't have the letters pages reprinted. And so I just don't know a lot of the lore, but that made sense to me off the top of my head. Which the brother story is incredible at one point. Really, Jesse, at one point, you love superheroes, so you should read all of Astro City.
Good enough pitch for me.
That's it. It's superheroes. Like, there's enough action to get around to I don't want to say make up for the fact that there's so much character work, because the character work's so awesome, but there's action enough in it to where like you enjoy that part if you like it. But like, if you genuinely love superheroes, like there's nothing better. There's no better world that's ever been created for them to reside in and be respected and their virtues be extolled and like them being put on a pedestal in a good way, not like, because it's not like they never make mistakes or anything in Astro City. Like meta way, it's just like, I think Kurt Busiek once said superheroes is unique in that like you can have the personification of speed based off against the personification of fear, and you can have a meaningful story come out of that. And Astro City is like, it gives you that, but it also gives you like what the personification of fear likes for breakfast.
Mm-hmm, right.
Fear flakes, probably.
Oh boy.
It's true.
Tasty.
A little sugar on top, sugar. Strawberries. He goes to the doctor.
So this first issue hits August 10th, 1995. It's on the shelves. And our creative team, I actually grabbed the creative team for the back of the Metro book. So I'll just run down here. I'll make sure to stick with, I'll just read what's on the back of the Metro book. I think some of these creators may not have come in until after issue 6, but regardless, might see a name or so here that we've heard of in the past. But yeah, I'll read this straight off the back here. Kurt Busiek is a New York Times best-selling and Eisner Award-winning writer of celebrated runs on Avengers, Superman, and more, including the breakout hit Marvels with Alex Ross, and has co-created Aerosmith, Autumn Lands, and Thunderbolts, among others. Then we have Brent Eric Anderson, began making his own comics in junior high school and graduated to a professional work less than a decade later. He's drawn such projects as Kazar, The Savage, X-Men, God Loves, Man Kills.
Oh, there it is, baby.
Yeah.
X-Men, God Loves. I just read that last week. I read it before, but.
Strike Force, Moratori, Somerset Holmes, Rising Stars, and of course Astro City, in which he's won multiple Eisner and Harvey Awards. He makes his home in Northern California. Alex Ross is the artist and co-creator of multiple painted projects, including Marvel's Kingdom Come, Superman Peace on Earth, and Justice. His work outside of comics includes magazine and album covers, as well as the poster for the 2002 Academy Awards. He has also been the subject of multiple books, including Mythology, the DC Comics art of Alex Ross, and Marvelocity, the Marvel Comics art of Alex Ross.
Really? Which one's better?
I'm a Marvel guy, so I've got to go with the Marvels. That's the one, Marvelocity. Will Blythe...
See, I think his stuff works better with the DC guys.
I think iconically, the Kingdom Come stuff definitely comes to mind. It's all about gods, supervillains, and I see it.
At the same time, it's like, which do you like better, like a hot fudge sundae or a strawberry sundae?
They both taste right.
Yeah, they're both. You might like one better. I'll take either of them.
I always go back to Kingdom Come, and the reason is I always found Marvel to be more interesting on itself, and Marvel's is like, hey, this is already pretty cool. I'm going to show it to you in vibrant detail, whereas I felt like Kingdom Come, especially at the time it came out as a response to the very fractured continuity and method of storytelling DC was using at that time, is like, hey, this is what this universe could be and has been and will be again. So Kingdom Come was like a watershed moment for me because it was the first time that I read a DC comic and I was like, this is coherent. I like this. And he's this Captain Marvel person who became my favorite character.
God damn.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just laughed over you because I'm like, that being your first DC comic is like, poor you. That's all. It's hard to go up from there.
That's true.
Hence my DC reading since then. It's been very tough. Every time I go back to it, it's always like, yeah, this is good, but this ain't Captain Marvel arriving at the Gulag, people. It's just not. It's like when you get people who read Watchmen for the first time and they're like, is there anything else that's good? I'm like, no, now you have to read all the other stuff.
All right, up next, Alex Sinclair. He's colored virtually every character in the DC stable and many others besides. Best known for his award-winning work with Jim Lee and Scott Williams, he's graced such books as Aerosmith, Batman, Hush, Superman, For Tomorrow, Wonder Woman, Amazing Spider-Man, Star Wars, and Venom. Steve Buccellato, an award-winning art director, an award-winning art director and illustrator who's worked in comics as a colorist, writer, penciler, and editor on series from Batman to X-Men to the Flintstones, including his own Weasel Guy and Joey Berserk and Claire. His latest venture is Legend House, combining his experiences, interests, and love of story. And then finally, Comic Craft, the award-winning design and lettering studio founded by Richard Starkings and John Rochelle in 1992, famous for pioneering the process of digitally lettering comic books. Their work has appeared in comics from Avengers to X-Men, as well as television, movies, phone apps, and video games. Tyler Smith is the latest designer to join the Comic Craft ranks, working on comics for Blizzard, Riot, and DC Comics. There you go. All right, there is our creative team. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go down through, we're going to do I'm going to summarize the first 3 issues, and then we're going to discuss, because like I told these guys, this is a book that really you could spend probably a good half hour talking about each issue. And we're not going to do that to you guys. We're going to get in through these, and then we're going to get into the next 3, and then we'll talk about the half issue, but we will still have a lot to say. But yeah, I'm going to cruise through the summary. I got a paragraph for each one of these issues, and then we'll get into a discussion. Issue number 1, and boy, does this sets the tone right here. In Dreams introduces Samaritan, Astro City's Superman analog, not through spectacle, but through exhaustion. We follow him across a single day as he stops a tsunami in 6.2 seconds, dismantles a bank robbery, rescues civilians, attends public ceremonies, and juggles his secret identity as magazine editor Asa Martin. Every second of his day is accounted for, calculated, triaged. Even 2 seconds spent comforting a child nearly costs another life. His greatest enemy isn't a supervillain, but the recurring living nightmare, a creature that seems to always attack when he's tired and feeds on emotional energy. At day's end, he tallies his victories not in lives saved, but in the 56 precious seconds he spent flying freely. In his dreams, he escapes responsibility and simply soars. The issue closes where it began, not with triumph, but with longing to be in the sky. Then we have issue 2, The Scoop, shifts perspective from heroes to journalists, following Elliot Mills in 1959 as he witnesses a demon summoning gone wrong, Sharkmen swarming the newly formed Honor Guard, and the Silver Agent saving the day by destroying an occult altar. Though Elliot experiences the full cosmic spectacle firsthand, he cannot prove it. His editor refuses to run the fantastical story without verification. And in the end, the only publishable fact is mundane. A trolley was delayed by a shark. Decades later, Elliot explains that he kept the...
If it wasn't Astro City, that's not very mundane. Yeah.
That's true.
If I got an alert on my phone that said the 4 train was delayed because a shark randomly fell onto the tracks and had to be cleared off, I would be very curious. I would be incredibly curious.
There better be more to that story.
But that's the thing, is there wouldn't be, because there's just too much going on. Like someone would be like, no, there was a shark on the tracks. Now there's not a shark on the tracks. It's in the dumpster behind a Dunkin' Donuts. Just don't think about it. Train's running again. Like that's just how you do. That's just.
We'll only be 10 minutes late, so we'll be 15 if you ask any questions.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
Decades later, Elliot explains to a new hire that he kept the clipping framed among his other fantastic articles, not as a reminder of Miss Glory, but as a testament to responsible journalism. In a world of miracles, the Astro City rocket prints only what it can prove. And then in issue 3, A Little Knowledge, a small-time crook named Andrew Eisenstein stumbles into something priceless and terrifying when he accidentally sees the unmasked face of local hero Jack in the Box. Convinced he's holding $1 million secret, Andrew imagines blackmail, revenge, and a ticket out of the gritty sweatshop district. But every scheme in his head ends the same way: betrayal, exposure, or death. As Jack in the Box dismantles a smuggling operation nearby, Andrew's paranoia spirals, and a single glance from the hero convinces him he's already marked. Flashing back to childhood memories of idolizing Astro City's heroes, Andrew realizes the knowledge he once thought was power has only made him a target in his own mind. In the end, he doesn't cash in, fight back, or expose anyone. He runs, abandoning the city he once loved, proving that in Astro City, even a little knowledge can change your life forever. So there you go. There is a 1-paragraph summary of each issue. Dean, we could start with you if you would like. What are your notes for these first 3?
They're almost so good it's hard to even talk about them, to be honest. Anderson is probably very, like, we talk about it like it's Kurt Busiek's Astro City, but Anderson's pencils really do a lot of heavy lifting that, like, they probably don't get credit for just because the storytelling's so tight. Samaritan is one of my favorite Superman pastiche characters. The first issue, they really, really, really hit a home run with the first issue. Very smart to release this one first. The second issue, we talk a lot about how, like, Astro City is for the other side of superheroism, the real life, like how this would impact a person. But also, like, there's a whole city built around them. And, like, a lot of it's, like, named after various greats in the comic book industry, like Mount Kirby or Bureau Island. They also build a world around it. And you think about comic book worlds, both the Marvel and the DC universe have, is a flagship newspaper where things revolve around the Bugle and things revolve around the planet. And this in Astro City's not going to be any different. So it's really cool to see him establish a newspaper here. Again, we talk about this being the other side of them, but also it shows us what that city would be like, what the other side of life would be for people who lived in this city. Even like this editor, this writer who becomes an editor, he almost, like, the way it sounds, the way they talk about his career, he almost has a Jimmy Olsen experience as far as, like, his whole career. But, like, here at the beginning, he had to prove himself. Here's the other side of that. Like, other than, like, for soap opera purposes, like where Jimmy Olsen, like, loses his job for, like, a few issues or whatever, or in a flashback, nobody was ever like, here's Jimmy Olsen's first pictures. Here's Jimmy Olsen's first whatever. It doesn't work that way. But here they're telling the story of this universe's somewhat equivalent. And it makes you think of how that would apply to Jimmy Olsen and how Jimmy Olsen must have beat his head against the door trying to get into the Daily Planet. So,
right.
And how, again, Perry White was like, no, I can't run this. This photo doesn't work. This one's not great. This one's out of focus. I love this one, kid, but it's of your girlfriend. You know what I mean? That thing. So I thought it did a great job of that. Issue 3 Issue 3, again, we talk about the superheroes, but, like, this one's about a fairly low-level mook. A mook, as we would say in a Punisher book.
Do you not use the word mook in your day-to-day life?
I do a little.
Oh, I do a lot. Like, way too much.
Well, you're a badass.
Mook.
But this mook who gets this information and he finds out there's just, like, nothing he can do with it. Like, every which way he goes, there's no good way out for him. And then at some point, that it's not a treasure anymore. It's an albatross and it's dragging him down. So he has to leave. But, like, the thought pattern that he goes through is just very, very well done. Like, you can absolutely see how he comes to the conclusions that he comes to. Again, a very, very well done issue. And again, plenty of action in it. Jack in the Box taking out criminals. Like, he talks in this issue here about, like, Samaritan stopped some pyramid guys in Turkey last week. And now that stuff's here. If you go back to Samaritan's issue 1, like he talks about, he goes, I stopped in Turkey to deal with some pyramid.
That's right.
Pyramid's like a Hydra analog,
Gotcha.
For lack of a better term. It's not quite that, but it works for the purpose of this conversation. So it's funny that, like, they're also building this internal continuity, which will be important later. So I wonder how far Busiek had this planned out and how much he had, like, one of those bulletin boards with string, things attached. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
Like Crazy Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like the meme. Like, you see?
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if he had one of those. Great 3 issues to just dive in. And like, I wish I'd have been able to get these at the time. I could only read about them in Hero Illustrated and Wizard. And like, people are like, this is the best. And when you read it, it's really, really good.
I wonder what my take on these would have been if I would have picked them up in 95, because I was definitely in a different mindset as far as what I enjoy.
Looking for Cyberforce.
Well,
seriously.
Right, dude. Like, that was...
You're like...
That was how single-minded I was.
When is Cyblade going to fight the winged victory?
The crossover of the ages has to happen.
Babe launch!
That could have happened, right? Obviously, this is self-contained. I'm sure if Busiek had been like, hey, can Cyblade show up for a panel or two? I want to win a bet or something. He'd been like, yeah, sure, have fun.
It still could happen.
Yeah, that's true.
I had such a different, like, palette for what I enjoyed back in the mid-90s. That's for dang sure. Clearly, my taste and my understanding of the multi-faceted way of telling a good comic book story has appreciate that now. Back then, I don't think I would have. So this could have been Alan Moore Supreme as far as I was concerned, because I was...
Which you hate.
Throw it in the trash.
It should have been something else that's really good.
Throw it in the trash. And then years later, I come back to it and I'm like,
trash.
I come back to it and I definitely appreciate what's going on here. I'll go down through my notes here real quick and you guys can bounce off of this. And I'll throw it to you real quick, Dean. The humanization of a superhero is like one of the things that is a central theme to a lot of this. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think it's a humanization and a realization of an entire world. But yes, the humanization of superheroes in the micro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure, Darry, you agree too.
I really like the fact that everyone is so boring, if that makes any sense. Like, I love the fact that he does the superhero action really well. He does great pastiches of all the big names. He's super influenced by Kirby. And then I like the idea that once the cape comes off, once the doors close or everything else, it's just people sitting there going, man, I'm tired, or that sucks, or my neighbors are awful, or I hate these people, or I got to convince myself to get up in the morning and help them.
Celebrate my Zyzometer again.
I love it.
Like
because
you reset your router.
Yeah, exactly. It's the most mundane thing. It's the trouble alerts going off again. I got to fly to Pakistan or wherever he's going. And it's just, I love it because it's that old school, Ditko-esque. They got to have problems. They got to have feet of clay. They got to convince themselves their neighbors are worth saving. But the whole universe is like that. And I love it. It's like there's no direct Spider-Man analog because everyone's Peter Parker. Everyone's mulling through day after day, the grind. My favorite part in the first 3 issues was when Samaritan's boss yells at him. Because it's one of those things where it's like most people wish they had the ability to just tell off whatever middle manager is trying to get them to do some task that doesn't matter in the long range of things. And this is Superman, right? There's nothing stopping him from just standing up, floating away, and never talking to this woman again.
Right.
And I really like the way it's handled because you see what he prioritizes. And look, it's Busiek. His name on a book gets me to buy everything. I've never regretted purchasing it. His run on the Avengers is legendary. He's the guy who created Thunderbolts, for Christ's sake. So there's no bad here. And there's not a lot of stuff you can say bad about.
My main takeaway from issue 1 is humanity or regular people dream about being superheroes, and then what you realize is that superheroes dream about being from the responsibility of being a superhero. You know, they
which is also the same as anybody else.
And
like
which
you dream
exactly
about being free of your responsibilities.
You just want to be done. So it's completely identifiable. And I think that's what makes this so great is like a lot of times the superheroes back in the 90s that I was reading were these people who were muscle bound and they were able to take care of problems and they were able to just do what you wish you could do. And then what this does is it makes you realize that, no, these people are like you. They may be able to do these things, but they are also like you. And so I think they do that really well.
I think it's a fine line, though, because you also have to remember that it's like playing a sports video game, which Darry doesn't understand. but you'll probably get this. It's got to hit a certain level because you don't want it to be too hard. Your life's already hard.
Yeah.
But you don't want it to be too easy because you want to feel like you've accomplished something.
Right.
Well, when you're reading superhero comics, you want to feel like you can identify with the characters, but you also don't want the characters to come across as it would be very easy for Samaritan to come across as whiny.
Mm-hmm.
It would not be. It's a fine line because you'd be like, good, you can do anything. So the humanization is important, but it's also important that still think that there's still an element of larger than life to it. There's still an element of escapism to this stuff, and it inspires you to seek out other things, Avengers, JLA, where there'll be more escapism. But again, the guy who discovers Jack in the Box's secret identity, he could come across as just an annoying neighbor. You're like, oh God, I get it. You've got a problem. But he really treads this line where you care about the guy and his problems. You care about Samaritan and his problems without getting too far into oh God, this guy again, which is very impressive.
I just to throw my notes out there for that third issue, I think the biggest thing that struck me is clearly the ending, where you learn that as a kid, he looked up to all these heroes. And he loved living in Astro City because he had all these heroes around him. And of course, he falls on the wrong side of the tracks. He grows up, becomes a criminal. And the one thing that makes him leave Astro City is the fact that there's all these heroes and he knows more than he really should. And that knowledge, instead of being power, is something that's actually weaponized against him. He weaponizes it against himself, actually. And he's just continues to see all these bad things that are going to happen because he knows this one thing. And then he leaves and he gets the hell out. Again, a great issue, a great way of showing you what it's like to be a citizen or somebody that lives in this city and what it's like to be surrounded by superheroes, supervillains, and all this. So yeah, I did like issue 3. And then jumping back to issue 2, this is the journalistic integrity issue. This is a really great issue. I think that as he gets this, all he wants is this break. Elliot Mills, all he wants is the break. He wants the big story. He watches all this stuff go down, and then he cannot print what he saw because there's absolutely no proof to it. But he finds a career in journalism. At the time we first meet him in this issue, he is running the Rocket, if I remember correctly. And so he's made a reputation on journalistic integrity. So I appreciate it. Again, it's from the...
You gotta pay your dues, kid. You gotta pay your dues. That's how it sounded to me. Oh, my goodness. Kid, you're not ready just yet.
Could you imagine, though, being that guy? This is a giant, huge event that would have caused noise and everything else. If any bystander had been interviewed by the equivalent of the Daily Bugle and describing this once-in-a-generation event of the Justice League Avengers showing up to defeat the devil and his army of Sharkmen, Jonah would have printed that thing 20 size font, special edition, Bulldog edition, early edition, late edition, just going on eyewitnesses. And this guy,
but that's if there was an eyewitness. It would have, but just the reporter, he wouldn't do it.
Yes.
He'd be like, no, I can't do it.
I'm playing devil's advocate. I want him to report only what he can support. It's just so funny that the guy is describing this insane, once in a generation event to someone who must have been around superheroes before then, and he's just like, no, we get it. The army of Sharkmen, fine, no, right, army of Sharkmen, what can you prove? Oh, there was a shark. Great, we're gonna run that.
Yep.
And again, it's idealistic, and I love it, but at the same time, it's just there's a version of this story that goes very differently.
Another person there.
Yeah.
I love J. Jonah Jameson because other than Spider-Man, he's a pretty decent editor, pretty decent publisher. I especially love the issues where he's in Daredevil, where he tells Ben Urich he'll publish the Kingpin stuff, where he's like, you make sure it's right and we'll publish it. I'm not scared of anything. He's like, but don't bring me. He's like, this paper is a weapon, and we aim it every morning at 5 million people.
Yeah, there's a great version of Jonah that exists, to your point, when he's decided, like, I'm going to pick on this person who wears a full mask and I don't know what he looks like and I can put anything I want on him. But when it's not dealing with that, when it's brass tacks, when it's down to business, there's a completely different side of him. And he's like, oh, Norman Osborn? Absolutely. Front page. Kingpin, I'm not afraid of these people. I don't live in fear. You see it too in Civil War, where he's like 100% behind the Registration Act. He's like, a bunch of kids died. We have to do this. This is our moral calling. So it's the reason the character is so interesting and iconic, even when he's not yelling at what turned out to be a 15-year-old boy that is in his employ. He's the type of character you want. When he's got a staff with Uric and everything else, it's just like, no, this is what you need. Someone to call everyone on their crap in a city that routinely gets invaded by shape-shifting green people.
And he's not afraid of him. It's really a fun time in the issues where, like, we did Carnage. Like, Carnage shows up and be like, I'm here to kill you. It's like, oh, you're here to kill me? Fine. Leave the staff alone.
He's always like, oh, you're here to kill me? That's fine. You take me. These people are my employee. They don't touch them. Anything they said that might have annoyed you, right here. It's my name as publisher. It's my name as owner. I own the building. Yeah, that's it. And there's a great story later on when Dan Slott is writing the book where his wife gets placed in the crosshairs. And it's just like, oh, you're a human being after all. He's a great character. He's the type of character that I feel like inspired a lot of what Busiek was trying to do with the Rocket.
And that's what I meant. Characters like that, characters like Perry White, characters like Lois Lane, even characters like Steve Lombard. Like, there's a reason they put Steve Lombard in Cat Grant, the Superman movie. It's because, like, these people have built, like that paper is the cornerstone of the DC universe. The Marvel universe, like Betty Brant, Robbie Robertson, even Eddie Brock for a little bit, like the Spring, like that bugle is like a cornerstone of this universe. Mm-hmm. And like Astro City's got to have it, and it's the Rocket.
There's something to be said, too. Not only does he idealize the superheroes, because good is good, bad is bad, and there's a lot of gray in between, but he goes out of his way to idealize a lot of the institutions that make up a city. So what I mean by that is the publisher or the editor-in-chief of The Rocket is like, well, wait a second, what can you prove? And it's like, okay, I've seen that in comic books. I've very rarely seen that in real life. And usually when we see it in real life, we put it on a very high pedestal. But even in this, like the police officers are always like, no, we have to wait and support and protect people. There's not a lot of corruption in your traditional power structures. It's all outsiders, freak accidents, invaders type thing. And even later on, you find out that the Silver Agent is like a post office worker, like like a mailman or something. But I like that. My point is, like, the book isn't called Astro City just because that's the major city on the East Coast where they all happen to hang out and live. It's like, no, this is what happens when a city works the way it was intended to. And all these other really intense supernatural elements all gel and mix and do everything else. So I find it very interesting. I don't know a lot about Busiek growing up other than he's from fucking Boston, but he seems to really want this to work and shows what happens when it does. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, but here's the thing about that, about Astro City and the city and like not a lot of corruption and everything working. For a city where everything sort of works, there's an awful lot of mooks in those seedy bars ready to do a seedy job for $200, $100. Yeah, there's a whole lot of abandoned warehouses and empty fucking piers where just bring stolen goods. Hey, listen, I'm just saying that if Bruce Wayne should invest more in Gotham City, the Confessor should put more money into Astro City.
The entire time I'm reading this, I'm thinking to myself, we don't know a lot about the Astro City Bank. Why do they have a skyscraper? Why do they have the trouble alert at the top of that building? What is going on here? Because to Dean's point, there is still a high level of economic disparity going on here.
Otherwise, there would be so much crime.
I'm agreeing completely. Yeah. How many times does a major public area need to be attacked? How are people financing all these war armors, weapons of devastation? Like, questions need
Everybody
to be
can't Submariner it. Everybody can't be like, I dove to the bottom of the ocean and found a Spanish rag from 500 years ago, and here's some doubloons, motherfucker. I'm like, everybody can't do that. Like, some people got to build their own, Destructo bots.
I'm saying, man, it's time for some audit. It's time for some fiscal accountability here. We got
Kurt Busiek will wind up listening to this. He'll be like, "But I should tell a story about why there are so many mooks, despite the place being a great place to live. Why is crime so high?" And this would lend itself to what some psychiatrists in Batman say, which I don't think it's true in Batman, but it could be true in Astro City, which is the heroes attract the crime.
Oh, that's interesting.
Okay.
I don't think Batman does it. Batman is a response to whatever, but like in Astro City, like people are like, "I'm going to Astro City. That's where the heroes are." Like not just the villains, but like people just, I want to live there because that's where the heroes are.
I always saw it as it's like a triangle, right? It's like a love triangle. If you have a lot of normal crime, you attract a superhero. And then once you have a superhero, it's like the end of Dark Knight. It's what Jim Gordon says to him. It's like, well, once a superhero is there, you attract super crime, right? It's like how many stories have started off, not just in Astro City, but in any superhero comic where it's like, oh, if I defeat you, the hero of record, I'm going to make a name for myself. Or we need to knock you off so that we can invade the rest of your planet or whatever nonsense it is. But there's definitely a relationship there. And then there's other stories where the hero retires or they go on vacation or something and then normal crime skyrockets, right? Because everyone was just worried about getting knocked out by a batarang or a kid in tights. But once that's over, it's like, oh no, he's not here for 2 weeks. Let's ransack stuff. And then he comes back and suddenly the Joker's poisoned the water supply and there's a gang war. So I definitely think there's a relationship between all three. But to your point, it's a question of how strong is the relationship at any given moment. It's like the Wayne Foundation's gone bankrupt 3 times trying to fix the mundane crime in the city. But while he's doing that, the Court of Owls is blowing up a hospital somewhere. So
the Court of Owls is always doing shit like that.
Always doing shit like that. Old money. Always don't trust old money. That's the point of this song. Don't trust old money. I want to talk about the 3rd issue. Hold on. I had a note here. Sorry. 1 second. You can.
This is our boy our criminal, our mook, right?
So the thing I loved about that issue is a couple of things. One, I think Jack in the Box has one of the best designs of the entire Astro City pantheon. And I know a lot of credit, I'm not taking anything away from Anderson, but a lot of credit of this definitely goes to Alex Ross.
Right.
The extendable arms, the legs, the clown makeup, the confetti, everything else. He has a look that allows him to jump from building to building in a very natural way, the way Daredevil or Spider-Man or even Batman would, but it also doesn't look like any of them. Mm-hmm. And it's one of those things when I saw it originally, I was like, that character looks great, and I want to know more about them. And then you finally read the issue, and it's not about him, and I love that. I absolutely love that for the first 6 issues we read, it's all about people talking about the Jack in the Box. You will eventually get his origin in excruciating detail, but it's this idea where
excruciating.
Well, because as things go on, some of this stuff gets drawn out a little bit. At the end of Volume 1 in the collected edition, there's a very rough map of what Astro City was intended to look like. And it's basically just the island of Manhattan with a mountain where the Bronx should be. And I guess they hadn't quite worked out what all the suburbs were going to be. To the left, it just says Hoboken, which is a city in New Jersey. On the right, it just says Queens. Like, yep, thank you. Thank you, Kurt. You really nailed the nuance of the city of New York. We really appreciate that. Don't get me wrong. As someone who's been to the Bronx many times in their lives, I would understand replacing it with Mount Kirby. But, Anyway, the Jack in the Box issue was my favorite of these 3. I really appreciated learning about a character by what everyone around him thinks. And again, the sweatshop and the working class and the way the waterfront was presented, it's all very similar to Daredevil's version of Hell's Kitchen, which I'm sure existed back in the 60s, but certainly doesn't exist anymore. I thought it was a really good way of capturing that in the 90s. I thought it was a great story. I love what Jesse said earlier, which was you see as a child, this guy is like, oh man, these superheroes are amazing. And then he gets to be an adult and he falls into the Astro City narrative, which is like, no, they're people. One of the guys who keeps beating up you and your friends has a girlfriend and you met her and they are very nice and they are normal people, and you're more terrified of the supervillain king crime Catholic priest that you work for than you are of the guy who keeps throwing you in jail because you're a low-level criminal. So it's so good. I've read it 6 times, and every time I read it, I think this is great. And every time I read a bad story, I think to myself, well, this is the price you pay for going back and being able to reread this stuff 30 years after it went to print.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Jack in the Box being one of your favorite designs or one of the best designs. I was perusing through some of the letters pages. I wasn't reading all of them, but man, I think it was after issue 3 drops. It's either the letters page, issue 4 or 5. People were right along with you, man. They were all wanting to know about Jack in the Box. Like they thought that was a cool character and they wanted to know more. It was fun to watch, or I looked through a couple of the letters pages. It's fun to watch the people react to this as it's going on, and that's all happening in real time for them. They're writing these letters right after they read the issues back in '95, and it's just, again, it's hitting them, and it still hits people today, which is really cool.
It's interesting too. You guys mentioned this before. This was a nostalgia trip when it came out. Right, that's how it was framed. That's how Wizard used to frame it. I never read the much vaunted Hero Illustrated, but I got my stuff from Wizard, and they would constantly say, like, this is how the older books felt in your mind, even if this isn't actually how Bob Haney and Bob Kanigher and Stan Lee and the other guys actually produced their books. This is how it felt. It felt mythic. It felt larger than life. So to go back to your point where it was like, this really landed very well with the people who found it, especially coming out of Image, where, again, he talks about it in the collected edition, where he's like, he got no interference. Everyone was happy to be putting the book out. And you have Alex Ross covers, which are a guaranteed payday to begin with.
Right. And they were more or less on time. Which
were they? Sure. Okay.
Yeah. I think the last issue was a couple issues were a couple weeks late, but you're not going to sweat a couple weeks for what it was like literally 6-8 months late. They were pretty much over it by the time this was coming out, but definitely they still liked when things were coming out more or less on time.
Yeah, but this way of doing it set the stage for what Busiek would do at Marvel and what other people would do at Image. Like when Heroes Reborn ends and they relaunch the Avengers, it's really Busiek going over there and saying, well, wait a second, I don't want to do the version of the Avengers that had to slog along. I want to do Earth's Mightiest Heroes. And you ask most people, they're going to say, what's the best Avengers run? Probably in the top 5 is going to be his and Perez's run. A lot of that is due to Perez. But that starts here, where it's like, wait a second, I want to show you the icons, the capital I icons, but I'm going to add in what they do when they're not punching neo-Nazis in the face. And then you have books like Planetary, which took the same thing and said, wait a second, superheroes aren't bad. They got a lot of crap on them. We're going to scrape that crap off and we're going to show you them. That's what I think of Astro City. It's like to open the book with a version of Superman and to show how his personal life is so complex, complicated, and what he looks forward to is these little tiny moments that most stories wouldn't even have the time to meander on. I thought was such a great way of saying, this is our mission statement, and if you find this interesting, stick with us because there'll be a lot more.
At this point in time, Samaritan, before he winds up with Winged Victory, he would have even been looking down on Superman somewhat. Because he'd have been like, so you have this whole life? He's like, don't you hear these people who need to be saved? Who's saving people left and right? Going out with Lois Lane. I'm not having dinner with Jimmy Olsen. I'm not doing this stuff. I'm I'm barely in the office just enough to keep my Zeisometer going.
Zeisometer, which last time
which is apparently just a modem.
I was trying to figure it out.
So, I know. I'm making fun.
No, I know, but I think this is interesting because last time I read this 5-10 years ago, I didn't have this context, but this time when I read it, I was like, this is an AI assistant because he says, I'm going to have it do my day work for me. And I even know what errors it's not going to catch. Like the whole thing is like, it's programmed to do all the mundane work so that he can go out and save lives. He actually says he needs the modem at work to connect it to it, though I'm not 100% sure how that works because he seems to have an earpiece and something at home, but whatever. It's 1995. God only knows what they thought the internet was back then. But I did think of that where I was like, oh, you are describing an idealized version of AI, almost like Jarvis in the MCU, where it's like, hey, I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. You do the math, you do the design work. I'm going to make the big decisions. So I thought that was very interesting too, that he would have this so early on as a way of getting all the mundane stuff out of the way. And today that feels like something that so many people are stretching for. And I have to be honest with you, Jesse, I know you're a fan, but if you sent me a link tomorrow that said, hey, there's an AI chat thing, whatever the hell they're called, and it's been branded as the seismometer. That might
you might try it.
That I have to. I'm a very weak-willed person when it comes to that, and if it was like,
it's just got to be packaged right?
It's got to be packaged correctly. And if it was like, no, let Samaritans help you deal with your stuff, I might try it.
Oh my goodness!
Don't do it.
Again, maybe, not 100%. I haven't given in so far.